welcome back for more Skyrim with Requiem, playing on my level 1 character, and it's been a long time since I made the last video in this series, and it's also going to be the last video in this series. I'll explain both in a little bit as we get further into the video. Anyway, I decided for this character to keep progressing, I need to kill the Dragon Priest, both to get access to the masks, which have some really powerful passive abilities like some resistance, so I don't get fragged by elemental damage so easily, and because the Dragon Priests are where you can find the Daedric one-handed weapons, which will be my next big weapon upgrade. So my first attempt on Otar the Mad, I go in with Red Eagle's Bane. The sword is totally ineffective. I was hoping the fire enchant would be enough to make it good against him. That was not the case. So here I am using the Dawnguard war axes instead, which I picked up over at Fort Dawnguard. And with the combination of skooma and potions and all that, I'm able to take some damage off of him, but his health regeneration is still too high. So I then decide that I will try also summoning a Flame Atronach in addition to having skooma and Berserker Rage, going all at the same time to try and burst down Otar the Mad before he can get his regeneration going. And here all of the stars align and I'm able to chop him down with putting a point into the axe perks, which I was not really hoping to do, but it turned out it was just totally impossible to go about it any other way than putting my very precious one remaining perk point into an axe specialization because swords were just not doing enough damage. Anyway, after all that effort, I'm finally able to kill Otar the Mad. I pick up his gear, and I'm feeling pretty good at this point because now that I've got his mask, I think the next fights will be easier. Just to be a completionist about it, I want to try whether I can do it with a sword, because I really would like to put my perk point into sword specializations instead of axe. So I start using the silver katana, which I've had for a while, along with the Flame Atronach to slow his regeneration, along with skooma, along with Berserker Rage. But as you can see, I get him down to pretty low health, but right around here is where some of my buffs start to wear off, and then his regeneration is just too high. I have him in a stun lock spot where he's not really doing any damage to me, but I just can't kill him. His regeneration is too high for me to overcome with my silver weapon, and so even though I'm not really in any danger, I'm also not in any position to win the fight either. Anyway, after that I'm like, alright, I did well enough. I'll go pick up the Daedric Mace. I know I can beat a Dragon Priest, I think, using axes, so let's move on to the next one. And this is where I run into a brick wall, because no matter what tactics I try, I'm just totally unable to beat this fire Dragon Priest, and I take many attempts and just completely unable to kill him. And this is why it's taken me so long to go back and do this final video, because I really didn't want to leave it off on the stance that, well, guess it's impossible, sorry guys, because I really know it's not impossible. If I was willing to spend, 20, 30 hours, I could go around, kill every dragon in the province, level up my mark for death, get my shout cooldown really low, maybe hire a high-level mercenary to come along with me and fire off some spells, and then maybe I could kill the Dragon Priest and overcome its very high regeneration rate. But every time I've thought about doing that for the past couple months, I've just sort of dreaded it. It's felt like work and not fun, and I just wasn't willing to inflict that on myself to complete a series where I think the late game decision by the developers is just, at this point, flat out poorly designed. It's broken. I don't like it. I've tried to stay away from negativity in all of my videos, and I've tried to stay away from criticism of Ogre Boss and the other Requiem developers. But at this point, well, for one, I'm very frustrated because this is the third character I've had that's been bricked by the Dragon Priest at the end of the game. And for two, well, I don't think they listen to feedback anyways, so it's not like they're going to hear this and be offended because I don't think they're listening. So here's my take on it. The regeneration mechanic that they have, I'm in particular on Dragon Priest, but it also shows up on Trolls and Spriggans and stuff to a lesser degree, is just very poor game design. It's maybe the most frustrating thing for a player to run into because it feels like you're doing absolutely nothing. It might as well just be a wall or like an invisible wall that your character can't jump over because you don't have high enough DPS. The effect of that is to totally invalidate certain styles of play. Well, were you thinking of doing like a hit and run strategy on Dragon Priest? Well, sorry, no you can't. That just won't work. Were you thinking of trying to sneak up on them? Well, no, you can't do that because sneak attacks don't work. Were you a Mace specialized character perhaps? Well, no, that won't work either because by the fiat of the developers, blunt weapons just don't work against undead, and because you need a certain level of DPS, no matter what, you're simply not going to be able to kill a Dragon Priest with a Mace unless you're massively overleveled, like character level 60 with every single perk possible. So yeah, sorry, can't do that. And while the ironic thing is, I think that Requiem is advertised as a role-playing overhaul, what it really is a metagaming overhaul, because you quickly find out as you advance to the late game that your neat roleplay that you came up with is totally non-viable if you actually want to complete the main quest line of Skyrim. So perhaps if you're interested in role-playing someone who is not the Dragonborn and cannot solve the problems of the province and just wants to run around and hunt wolves and kill bandits, yeah, you can roleplay that all you want. But if you actually want to beat the game, there's really only two viable builds to do it. You can either be a melee character supplemented with magic, or you can be a destruction / restoration mage. Those are your options. Otherwise, you are horribly handicapped and you're simply not going to beat the game. So I've put in a lot of hours of Skyrim, and even a great majority of those with the Requiem mod on, and I'm just over it at this point. Maybe I'll come back in 6 months or a year, maybe after the next version of Requiem comes out for special edition and suddenly all the mods are more easy to keep up to date. Maybe I'll revisit it then. But for now, I'm just fed up with it. I'm frustrated. I don't feel like playing it anymore. So sorry to leave off on a negative note, but that's how I feel about it at the moment. So my advice to people who are thinking about playing the mod is enjoy it for what it is, which is a very nice redo of the early game parts of Skyrim. And if you just treat it like a low magic medieval simulator, where you get to run around in the pretty woods and there are dangerous enemies that you have to look out for, and you never really plan to take your character past level 10 or 15, then I think it's great. Like, those are the parts of Requiem that are really fun and I think are really well balanced. But I very much doubt that the Requiem developers have actually played their mod all the way through the end game, or if they have, it's been very little that they've done it, and so it's just not balanced for that. And it's a fan-made project, and so that is always the answer to criticism like mine is, well, I didn't pay any money for it, and so what right do I have to complain? Well, I probably would have been willing to pay money for Requiem. I've gotten so much enjoyment out of it, but I also find that the developers are so resistant to any feedback that I'm just not really feeling like being invested in it anymore. So a little bit sad because I've enjoyed the time I've spent on Requiem quite a lot. I hope to revisit it at some point in the future, but at the moment I'm just too frustrated with the end game, and I've played the builds that are viable to do it. Yep, played them, been there, done that, and that's about the end of what I have to say about it. So maybe there'll be videos in the future, and I'd be interested to hear your feedback on what you've done in the late game with Requiem, and maybe I'll see you in the next one.